It's okay. Dealing with father is like totally awesome. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Glad to see everybody here for this April 20th meeting of the Piedmont Chapter. It's, as always, a pleasure to see all of you here. Thank you for being here. We're going to change up our order a little bit this morning, again, as we work to get ourselves in order, but we'll go ahead and take and move ahead with the meeting. What that means is we'll probably, Bev will probably delay your talk a little bit later in the agenda, as long as you have the time. But we should only be about 10 minutes off. Okay? Our colors have been posted. I would ask Chaplain Steve Morrison if he would lead us, if you would rise. Our opening prayer.
Would you pray with me, please? Dear Lord, thank you for joining us together this morning to enjoy fellowship and a talk and the pluses about being in the Sons of American Revolution. We ask your blessings on our chapter, and we ask your blessings on the national organization. We also ask for you to touch our national and state leadership so that they may make good decisions and possess discernment. We appreciate, once again, the opportunity of being together with like-minded individuals to understand more about what our ancestors did for us and founded this country. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing as I'll ask Sergeant Arms Tim Dunn to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the SAR pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We, descendants of the heroes of the American Revolution, who by their sacrifices established the United States of America, reaffirm our faith in the principles of liberty and our constitutional republic, and solemnly pledge ourselves to defend them against every foe.
Please be seated. It's, again, always good to see all of you here in the room. There's always strength in numbers and joy to see friends, and so that's good to see you here. Couple of guests this morning, as always. It's always wonderful when we have DAR sisters to be here with us today. Our almost member, Barbara Florence, is here with us again today, and so we appreciate that very much. And of course, our guest speaker, Bev Baker, is a member of the DAR as well, and Ricky will give us a more thorough introduction of her coming up in a moment. So we're glad each of you is here. We have a good host of members this morning online on Zoom. I think we've got Jerry and, we've got Al and Brad Finley. We've got Jerry Breed and Bill Simpson all online. And if I've missed anyone, I apologize, but we're glad you're here and glad you're able to join us.
And Frank Jones coming in.
Ah, good. Frank, good.
His name on it.
Yeah. That's okay. Well, I was waiting for Frank for just a moment because I had an update. As you know, Frank had shoulder surgery, I think about 6 weeks ago. And I got an email from him, an update this week. And so he's continuing to heal, kind of on track, doing the shoulder surgery. He's an ugly brute in long recovery, but he's progressing in his physical therapy appointments and hopes to be able to drive again in about 6 weeks. So he's doing right on track for recovery, as is Al Finley, who had hip surgery back at the first of the month, and not running marathons yet, but he's started his training. So I'm glad to have Al online as well. There we go. Then why don't we go ahead and do our drawing that we do each month for one of these books. I will ask Barbara if she will to draw a ticket.
Maybe a one.
And then read off the last three numbers.
677.
677. All right, Richard, well, and I forgot to, yeah, come on up, Richard. Be glad to pick a book from this supply here.
I'll come up after you.
Okay, that's good. But I also forgot to mention, we're glad to have Richard in the room with us this morning. Not yet officially a member of the Piedmont Chapter, I believe still an active member of the Ohio Society, but lives here, and we're glad to have him with us as often as possible. So glad to have him here too. All right. This month we have a number of our members who have birthdays. We have Miller Westerfield had a birthday on April 2nd. Jamie Ruff on April 4th. Jeffrey Clark, April 8th. Jeff Proctor on the 15th. Marion Parker on the 17th. Will Timms, one of our youth members, on the 19th. Yesterday, as a matter of fact. Rob coming up on the 23rd. And then Dallas, where are you? There you are, on April 30th. So our newest member. So glad to have you with us today. Likewise, we have a number of members who have milestone anniversaries this month with the SAR. All these have actually 5 years of service with the SAR. Scott Hopkins, Frank Jones, Edward Parker, Marion Parker, and Brad's son, Garrett Finley, 5 years in the SAR. So we will be getting certificates out mailed to each of these individuals to kind of celebrate their service within the SAR and appreciate you all being a part of the organization and this chapter in particular. We'll go ahead and do our chapter reports. Our secretary's report was distributed electronically 24 to 48 hours ago. We won't read that this morning, but we will accept that as published, and we appreciate Eric always getting those out in a timely manner for us. Our membership report, Glenn sent out earlier. It is here. I believe we have now 106 members so far year to date. We had one loss by death earlier this year, but we have gained 2, so we have a net of 106. Let's go ahead and move on to our treasurer's report. First of all, I appreciate Rob Uppard being here today, sitting here on the ground, filling in for Al, who's on Zoom. I handed out, Al provided copies of our treasurer's report for the members, and I handed those out a little earlier. Al, would you like to give us kind of a quick update on that report?
Glad to. Luckily, we got money in the bank. I've got some checks that have been given to me that I have yet to deposit, probably $1,500 worth of money, plus whatever is in line for today. And we have about $3,000 in unencumbered funds so that our fiduciary responsibility for all of the other activities could be met if we had to today. So thank you for your participation and contribution, and I'm always willing to take checks. Cash is also acceptable. So if you want to leave some cash for us, that would be great. Have a great day, and I'm glad to be part of the meeting via Zoom.
Thank you, Al. We don't actually have an update on Eagle Scouts this month. Kind of things is kind of where we were this time last month, but I think we do have a slide here coming up about we had a court of honor on March 23rd that Rick took part in, so that's always something that we enjoy being a part of. The young men and women who become Eagle Scouts are amazing, and it's uplifting for each of us when we get a chance to participate in a court of honor. Matter of fact, Calvin was telling me that the son of one of our own members is working towards his Eagle Scout Award later this year. So we hope to be able to play a very active part in that event as well. So, Our education committee update and activities, in terms of from our own chapter point of view, we are now wrapped up with our 2023-2024 school year activities. All of our judging is complete, and we've completed all of our local chapter award ceremonies that we needed to do. On March 25th, we presented certificates and medals at Soap Creek Elementary School in Cobb County. March 29th, we did the same for Eastside Elementary School. And I certainly appreciate all of our poster contest judges, Frank Jones, Eric Thorstenberg, Ron Windsor, and Bobby Shaw. We appreciate that very much for playing a very meaningful role. We wrapped up our Sergeant Moses Adams Memorial Brochure Contest for 8th graders and presented awards on April 10th at Fellowship Christian School. As always, challenge to go through those because, first of all, we had 102 of them submitted, but it's always a pleasure to go through and see how those students translate what they've learned back into something that we can then look at and review and have an opportunity to learn from as well. Appreciate very much our judges there, Jerry Breed, Tom Price, and Bob Saunders. Thank you all for your service in that way. And then, as previously reported, though, we also had completed our essay contest, and the awards were completed by really at the end of January and then in March. So, very active season. I think Rick's got a series of photos here for us, just showing you some of the smiling faces of the students. First of all, poster contest winners from Eastside Elementary School. The young lady on the left, she isn't holding her poster because she was our overall chapter winner, and her poster will be judged at the state competition coming up next weekend. So the teacher at Eastside was particularly moved that we selected Romy. Romy apparently she has a special learning plan, let's put it this way. And as the teacher described it, she doesn't get many wins. And so it was particularly moving to see the excitement on her face as we showed up there to recognize something that she did that was special. So, great group of students, it really was. Earlier in the month, a few days earlier, we had met at Soap Creek. Bob Sapp was able to join me for that one, and so appreciated his participation. And then the first place winner there is the young lady who is standing immediately in front of me in the yellow shirt. So again, a great deal of excitement and enthusiasm from not just the students, but the teachers. The next slide is our middle school brochure contest winners at Fellowship Christian School. The young lady in the middle was our first place winner. There to the left in the photo is the second place winner, and then the young man was the third place winner. Again, as you can see, we had a number of our members who were able to be there and participate. We never get to see him often in these photos, but Rick the Third was there as well, but he was standing behind the camera. So. And then our essay contest, we had Maddox Lewis first place at Fellowship Christian School back at the end of January. Maddox has done an excellent job for us for a number of years now. And I won't say limited to us. He's done some wonderful things in his community and sharing the knowledge of history. So we appreciate his participation. And then the second place winner came from the Wesleyan School, a young lady by the name of Holland Williams. So again, very active season. And so we appreciate everything that you all have done to contribute to that and making sure it was a success. With that, we're going to loop back now, and once Rick gets a chance to get himself some coffee,
Yes.
I will ask him to come up and introduce our speaker for the day.
All right.
Well, tell us to the bicycles. Roswell's full of them this morning all of a sudden. I had to run back to get a few things. All right. Well, I'm glad everyone is here on time. Thank you. That's it for me. All right, the speaker today is Beverly Baker. Beverly was born and raised in Houston, Texas, where she met the love of her life, Fred. And while working at AT&T, they were married in 1983 in Kauai, Hawaii. Very beautiful place. A lot of movies filmed there. AT&T was downsizing, so they relocated to Georgia in 1987, and then retired in 2015. So you didn't get downsized.
No, we didn't.
That's good.
We moved where there was work.
Well, that's good. That's good. Anyway, Beverly's a member of the Liberty Hill chapter, DAR in Hackworth, and her daughter Lauren is a member of the Atlanta chapter. Stepson Curtis, who's a Capitol policeman at the Capitol in D.C., and a granddaughter Eleanor, 3 grandsons, Julian, Lucan, and Kidden. She serves as DAR's national chair of the VIS committee. What is the VIS committee?
Volunteer Information Specialist.
Oh, like IT. Great. Wow. Maybe we need a VIS. I guess that's us. And serves as the Georgia Society's State Corresponding Secretary. She's a member of several other organizations and societies. Daughters of the Republic of Texas, Colonial Dames, 17th century, United States Daughters of 1812, Southern Dames of America, Continental Society Daughters of Indian Wars, Sons and Daughters of Pilgrims, and is currently serving as regent of the Georgia Division of Magna Carta Dames and Barons. That's really impressive. Beverly is also a member of the American Friends of Lafayette, an organization which started in 1930. The American Friends of Lafayette will kick off a monumental bicentennial celebration beginning August 16th of 2024, so just a little bit earlier than our own 250th. There are hundreds of events planned for each of the 24 states in which Lafayette visited upon his return after the Revolution. Hundreds of events planned. American Friends of Lafayette will trace his footsteps on the exact dates Lafayette visited each city-state as the nation's guest between 1824 and 1825. Beverly, along with Lynn Tate, another Georgia daughter, are in the American Friends of Lafayette, are the co-chairs of the events being planned in the state of Georgia. And today, Beverly brings a program titled The Nation's Guest, which highlights the many festivities and adventures General Lafayette enjoyed, sometimes endured, I think some of them here in Georgia,
Yes.
when he returned to America in 1824. So, without further ado, please welcome Beverly.
And I will need this book right here.
All right.
So the first thing I want to say is this chapter always buys an ad in the DAR program. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but you guys always buy an ad. It's a half page. And I'm so excited because I'm the one that has to track that, and I track all the other ads that come into that program. So any of you that have been to the DAR state conference, you probably have a copy of that program, and so thank you for that. So thank you so much for inviting me. As you heard, I'm here today to share a program about the return of General Lafayette to America in 1824 and 1825. And the first thing I want to say is I'm not a historian. I really knew very little about this man until I stumbled into his story with this little tiny book. And for me, it just has turned into a real calling, and I absolutely love the story. Will you do me a favor?
Sure.
I have 4 books here that you guys can kind of pass around, and it's a close-up of the slides that I'm going to share. So I'll just start by saying the Marquis de Lafayette was a French nobleman, and in 1777, at the age of 19, he sailed to America to fight in the American Revolution. And in France, a young boy is not considered of age until 25. He would need permission from the king and his father-in-law to leave the country. But he knew the answer would be no. And his passion was so strong and so deep to fight for freedom, he made all of his exit plans in secret, not even telling his wife. And the rest is history that probably most of you know. His bravery and leadership in the American struggle, his loyalty to General George Washington, his generosity in spending most of his own personal wealth on the American cause, and his success in persuading the French king to send soldiers and money to America. All of these were decisive factors in America's victory, including his brilliant command of the Virginia Army, which enabled him to corner General Cornwallis at Yorktown. And of course, that did prove to be the turning point of the Revolutionary War. So now, okay, wait, where's the clicker?
No, we got it.
Okay, oh, here it is.
Yeah, I have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the year is 1824. Lafayette is 66 years old. He has been removed from his own government's representation, and he receives a letter and this resolution from Congress to visit America as the nation's guest. He is the last living general of the American Revolution. So, again, this kind of led me into this whole thing. And once I found the answer to the one line in here about Georgia, which was not a nice line, it put me on a quest. And what I ended up finding is I found the journal that was written by the secretary that accompanied him here for those 13 months he was in America. He touched all 24 states when he was here. And he was treated, I'm not going to say like a rock star because I hate to use that term, but like royalty. I mean, he was royalty in a way, but I mean, he was treated by the American people just unbelievable how they treated him. But there are free PDFs online, and then I went ahead and bought the book. But I downloaded those PDFs and I printed it, every page, and I read those pages, and I can tell you, and I found a lot of other information too. There were times I literally cried, tears coming down my cheeks, because the Americans of that time period were so patriotic. They were amazing. So anyway, a lot of the ladies, when I do this program for DAR chapters or 1812 or whatever, a lot of the ladies immediately pick this book up and go back to the index to see if anybody in their family is mentioned. Now, none of my family is mentioned, unfortunately, but several ladies have found, oh, my great-great-great-grandfather, he slept in his house, or this or that or the other. So I just think that's really cool. So, but what I wanted to do in this presentation is just share some of the things that happened to him. And you had mentioned in that little bio that there were some great festivities, but there were also some things he had to endure. So I just thought some of them were a little bit funny. It is 200 years later, so I guess it can be funny now. But so he was invited. He eagerly accepted, got his own ship, sailed to America with his son, George Washington Lafayette, and his secretary, Auguste Levasseur, who is the author of those journals. And this is where he came into America, Staten Island. And this is his steamboat coming in, and you can see all these people. Whenever he did come aboard, and when they did the procession to City Hall there in New York, it was 1 mile long. That procession was 1 mile long. And there were 200,000 people that greeted him. That is a lot of people for 1824. Now, we have to realize that the word was out that he was coming. And so all of the little towns around that area, I'm sure they came. So this is him greeting the National Guard. He greeted the troops of the National Guard in every city that he went into, if there was one there. And this is him. These are just artist renditions that I found online. I just thought they were incredible, so I had to include them. They're waiting for him to arrive at Castle Garden, which is where they had a huge celebration for him. And so then I thought, what is Castle Garden? So then I had to research that, And it is a pretty phenomenal building. It's not there anymore. But I thought, wow, this was, I guess, for another event. It wasn't his, but I just thought that was a really incredible place. But that's where he was welcomed. So the other thing that I wanted to share with you is, before I go into these little vignette stories, there were tons of souvenirs. I don't know if people had to pay for them or if they just passed them out. I'm not sure. But all of these ribbons, you know, they had either George Washington or Lafayette on it. Fans, gloves, handkerchiefs, really all sorts of things. This one amazed me. That's why it got the center. That is a child's dress with a likeness of Lafayette all over it. 1824. I don't get it, but okay. Now I'm going to fast forward through these until I get here and here. This is the carriage that the United States government had created specifically for him, for his transportation around. They thought he was just going to stay in the Northeast, of course, but he didn't. He went to all 24 states. But this is his carriage, and it came into terrible disrepair. It was in a barn in Indiana, I think. And you can see that they tried to sell it. They finally did. Finally, the Studebaker brothers bought this carriage, I guess in 1887. So this is a good 50 years after he was here. And then the United States government in the 1990s, this was before restoration, they restored it back to its, which I loved this story too, because it was such a great carriage. But, so this is how he got around, him and his son and the secretary. Okay, so before I go to the next one. So I'll go back to the general was formally greeted in New York on August 14th, 1824. He was taken to City Hall in a grand carriage that had been created for him by the U.S. government, drawn by 4 white horses. And Mr. Levasseur said that the scene was indescribable. There were at least 200,000 people trying to shake his hand, hailed him with blessings, and they all welcomed him to America. The streets were decorated with flags and festoons. People waved their handkerchiefs. And that procession to City Hall was 1 mile long. What really touched my heart was, in the book it said that while he's traveling, just about anywhere he was, that a lot of these people that are on the sides, there were many of the old veterans. They were quite old by now. But they were there. He would recognize them, ask the carriage to stop, and he would step down, and they would hug, and many times cried together. I thought, wow, what a great, great, man he was. And then on that evening, as I said, he was celebrated at Castle Garden in New York. And Mr. Levasseur, in the book, also had another quote in there, which I thought was just great. He said that not even the coronation of Napoleon or of George IV could be compared with how elaborate this celebration was. So that's a pretty big statement. So each town that he went into, as he left one town and into another, he was always greeted by the National Guard or the troops. There was always a procession to City Hall, and they were formal welcomes. But as he moved from town to town, the citizens of the town he was leaving, sometimes up to several hundred people, horseback and walking, would accompany him out of town, and they would only turn back and go back to their town when the deputation from the city that he was going to would come and greet, and they would take over and move him through. So again, he wasn't sure that he was going to travel south or west, but his son, George Washington Lafayette, convinced him, you have to go to step into all 24 states. So that's what they did. He said, as long as I'm back to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Bunker Hill on June 17th, he said, I'll do it. So he did. There was a big trip. You could read all about it if you buy the book. I'm just going to kind of stop for a minute and go to Georgia. And talk about Georgia. So This is an 1825 map that I found, and it was perfect for me, tracking his trip across. So he actually starts here. I don't know if you can see my little red dots. You see how it goes up to, and then it goes across like this, and it comes down like this. This is Alabama, Creek Nation, Georgia. So he starts in Savannah, and in every city that he went into, I've already told you, they did something very special. There were a ball or parties, all types of things. He did travel up the Savannah River to Augusta, and then he got in that carriage, and here we go. 11 days, guys, in Georgia and Creek Nation. This is the current line. So, but 11 days. He didn't spend that long anywhere else. And then just that one line in that book is all we got. I was not happy. So he went through Warrenton, Sparta, Milledgeville, and Macon. Macon was a very new city, and on into the Creek Indian. He went to the Indian Agency, which here is this one. So he's right at the Indian Agency. I think we all know what that is. That's where the U.S. commissioners and the Indians, which was William McIntosh, made the deal for the Indians to move out of that territory. He crossed into Creek Nation. He was overnight right here, and now I know where that is now, because there are people researching all of this. It's called Spain's Tavern, but it was this is where he spent the night as well. And then he met on the banks of the Chattahoochee, which is right below Fort Benning, Fort Moore. He meets Chili McIntosh, who is the chief of the Creek Nation. And it was Chili's father that had made this deal, And he did abscond with that money, is what I understand. But they did find him. That's not in the book. But I had to go research what happened to this guy. So they did find him. It did not end well for him. So one of the things that I wanted to say about this is that Lafayette actually spent his life fighting for the rights of man and the rule of law, and he gave financial help and moral support to more than just the Americans, to the Poles, the Greeks, Irish, English, Scots, Italians, Portuguese, black slaves, women, South Americans, and the American Indians. And he gave many speeches in the French National Assembly on their behalf. He was a true humanitarian, and I think that's why there's such a big hoopla about him right now, and we're celebrating this 200th anniversary. The Indians in America, all over America, because there's several Indian stories in there, they absolutely loved him, and they couldn't wait to try to meet him and meet up with him. So one of the things that Chief Chili McIntosh relayed to General Lafayette when they met there at the Chattahoochee, quote, "All his brothers were happy to be visited by one who never made a distinction of blood or color, and they considered him the honored father of all the races of men dwelling on the continent." That's huge. I was like, wow, that is unreal. And when he finished that speech, there were about 200 Indians right there at the Chattahoochee. They got that carriage across the Chattahoochee. It's not real wide there. I've been right where it went across. That's where they said it went across. And they got that carriage across, and they drug it up that hill to the other side to their village. And I just thought, they wouldn't let him out because they said, oh no, you'll muddy your feet. They really loved him. So he did stay there for maybe a couple of hours, it sounds like, when you read the book, and he did all types of things with the Indians there. They loved him. Pretty soon the Alabama troops appeared, and it was time for him to move into Alabama, which he would have been right here. So then he moved into Alabama, and they accompanied him the rest of the way. So because I want to try to stay within 20 minutes, I'm just going to tell you a few other things that happened to him while he was here, that I selected things that I thought nobody else would ever report or say, and so that's what you're going to hear. he visited the home of John Adams when he was in Massachusetts. And he thought Mr. Adams had a very simple home, and Mr. Adams kindly invited them to have a meal with his family. And he said he kept up a pretty good conversation and had a pretty good memory for 89 years of age. Then he also visited Thomas Jefferson. So as the carriage made its way up the hill to Monticello, they could see hundreds of citizens on the lawn. No cheers, no hurrahs. It was quiet. These citizens seemed to respect the reunion of these two old heroes and friends. Lafayette's carriage arrived. Jefferson, old and feeble, hurried down his front steps. Lafayette descended from his carriage, and they limped towards each other, and they bounded into each other's arms. Of course, he spent time there in his home, had meals with presidents and things like that. He also visited Washington's tomb. Washington died in 1799, and it's now 1824. And here's how that went. When the grounds of Mount Vernon came into view from their steamboat, the general and his son kneeled in honor of the first president. George Washington Lafayette had a special connection to Mount Vernon because he was sent to live there by his mother when his father was imprisoned in Austria during the French Revolution. A nephew of George Washington led General Lafayette, his son, and the secretary to the tomb of George Washington. Lafayette entered the tomb alone, and after a few moments, returned with tears overflowing. He took his son and the secretary by the hand, and he led them down into the tomb, and they kneeled before the coffins of his friend, George Washington, and his wife, Martha, and wept. And possibly on a lighter note, but maybe not, he was involved in a shipwreck. So on May 9th, Lafayette and his party were aboard the steamboat Mechanic. They were going up the Ohio River to Louisville. There were numerous people on board from Tennessee, Kentucky, and Missouri. And at midnight, the vessel suddenly received a horrible shock and stopped. The secretary ran to see the problem, and he saw water rushing in. And he hurried to let the general and his son know. George and Mr. Levasseur grabbed the general, got him to the upper deck quickly, pushed through the crowd to find the captain who was to have a rescue boat waiting. They found the boat, and it took several men to lower the general down that violently rocking boat to a smaller boat, which almost capsized when he fell into it. But he was able to get in the boat. Mr. Levasseur was able to get in the boat. George stayed back and helped other people. He helped rescue other people. That ship did sink. So he lost everything that he had, all of his correspondence and everything. So anyway, and there's another whole story around that, but I won't go into that for now. It's a mystery. You can read about it over here. One more boat story. On June 7th, 1825, leaving Rochester, New York, the boat is gliding at a good pace when cries from the shore caught everyone's attention. It was an Indian. He wanted that boat to stop. The captain was not going to stop that boat. So the Indian ran very fast to an upcoming bridge, and when the boat passed under it, he jumped off the bridge onto the boat. All he wanted to do was talk to Lafayette about his own father, the Indian's father. And as Lafayette spoke to him, he remembered this man. And I'm telling you, that is a long name, and it's in that book. I don't even know how to pronounce it. But he did speak to this young man for a few minutes, and then according to this book, they spoke for several minutes, and then the Indian left the boat by jumping like a deer about 10 feet into the air to the shore and ran into the forest. I thought that was funny. And then as the journal ends, Mr. Levasseur made a statement that I thought was funny. He said that They traveled through Maine and New Hampshire and Vermont, and they just went through so many towns that he couldn't remember all their names. So if something's missing from the book, he apologized, because he said they traveled at a rate of 11 miles an hour. So I'll end by saying the Americans of this time period promised Lafayette, and this is what got me. This is my huge hook, okay? The Americans of this time period promised Lafayette that they would never forget him and what he did for America. They would always teach their children about him, and that generations to come would know and love him. Well, nobody taught me about it. I stumbled into this story. I kind of remembered the name Lafayette, or is it Lafitte? Is that a pirate? What is that? You know, I knew nothing. So I knew that my parents didn't have the information, and maybe their parents. You know what I'm saying? So I said, okay, this is my calling. I want to do a program on this, and I want to tell people about him. So before I go any further, let me see. I think I do have a couple of slides left. These are some of the invitations. You can see that in those books I'm passing around. I just thought the invitations were so cool. A lot of them are in museums. There was also so much information that I found. I put this together, and I just put in honor of the nation's guest. It doesn't necessarily mean that it had anything to do with the tour, but one of the, I was doing this program in Columbus, and, or was it LaGrange? Over there somewhere. And this right here caught the eye of one of the ladies in the chapter. And when it was all over, she said, "William Sharp is my ancestor." And if you read this, it was his stamp to Frank all of his correspondence so it could smoothly go back through the mail to France. Okay, there is a 200th anniversary coming up. This year and next year, all the things in Georgia happened in March of 20, will happen in 2025, March of 2025. By the way, there are two other co-chairs I'm sorry, I only mentioned me and Lynn, but John Trussell, which I'm sure you all know, and his wife Billy are also we are 4 co-chairs. And there is more work here. There's enough work for 20 co-chairs. It's huge to try to put all this together. I am going to try and attend Staten Island. I want to see what they do. In October, they're going to reenact what happened at Fort McHenry, which I thought was very cool. When I heard about it, I was like, oh my God, I have to go. So when he gets off the steamboat there, well, this happened in 1824, I guess. When he got off the steamboat there and he was walking up to greet the troops, instead of them waiting for him, they just folded back, and what was sitting behind them was Washington's tent. So he was overwhelmed because that's where he met with Washington all those times. So they said he cried and cried. So there will be a reenactment of that with an actor and the whole thing. It's going to be epic. I can't wait. So anyway, that's all I have, but I'm happy to answer questions if I know the answer, but otherwise, I'm happy to turn this meeting back over to you. Thank you all so much.
All right, well, we have a little certificate for you.
Okay, thank you.
So that must have been the old tomb, I guess, when he visited.
The old tomb.
Yeah, that's right. When you said down in.
Exactly,
In
right.
1824.
The ones that, yeah, because they moved everything.
When did they
down
move?
to
They moved
there.
it, I forget where. Anyway, well, here is your certificate.
Oh my goodness.
Dropping the money. $100 bill. Was it supposed to be a $100? Anyway, there you go.
Thank
We have a
you.
photo here. Okay. And then we have this $2 bill that we give all of our speakers because it has the artist rendition of the signing of the Declaration of Independence.
Which I love. Thank you so much.
And then
Thank you.
we have a 250 challenge coin.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. And that will also be something incredible in
All
a
right.
few years that we will be
Right, well,
doing.
this is
Thank
for the
you.
appetizer, I guess, the whole Lafayette.
Well, it is, yeah. So thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you
I
very
really
much.
appreciate it. Thank you.
At this point, we have something that is always a pleasure for us to do as a chapter. We want to induct our newest member into the Piedmont Chapter. I'd like to ask Dallas Johnson to join me up front, as well as his sponsor, Jamie Ruff. Jamie, join me on this side. So Dallas is a descendant of Andrew Hughes, who performed public service as a private in North Carolina. I have an ancestor who did that as well. So. Dallas's application was sponsored by Jamie and was registered by the National Society on February 16th, 2024. And the membership certificate is finally in our hands that we can present. Dallas, I'll tell you, had a hard-fought battle as he was working to get his application approved. He showed a great deal of patience with the SAR and a great deal of diligence working with Jamie to find the data we needed to make this happen. And like I'm sure his ancestor did, he served with diligence to make this happen. Therefore, Dallas, it's my pleasure to then officially induct you into the Piedmont Chapter Georgia Society Sons of the American Revolution. Would you please raise your right hand to take the oath of membership? Do you, as a descendant of Andrew Hughes, a patriot and hero of the American Revolution, reaffirm your ancestors' faith in the principles of liberty and our constitutional republic? The response, if so, is I do.
I do.
And will you pledge to support the National Society of the Sons of the American Revolution?
I will.
I take a great deal of pleasure in presenting to you your official certificate of membership into the Sons of the American Revolution. Along with that is a rosette that is a symbol of membership. You'll see that it is buff and blue and white colors, which is representative of the uniform colors of General George Washington and his key staff. I'd like to ask Jamie if he would pin that on your shirt. Along with that comes an approved copy of your application. You'll want to hang on to that for those thousands of supplemental applications I'm sure you'll have. Because they'll always ask for a reference copy of your original membership. And then some welcome letter information from the national, state, and from our chapter. Rick does a nice job of helping members get settled in. We have a brochure here that gives you your national number as well as your state number, and a set of 10 business cards that you can share with others in the community, not just to say, hey, I'm proud, I'm a member of the SAR, but as a way of encouraging others to perhaps take that step too. Let me be the first to officially congratulate you. Thank you. I would ask that each of you stand and maybe flow in this direction and offer your hand of welcome to Dallas.
It's been a long haul for you. Yeah, I guess so.
You never know.
You're welcome.
All right, are you?
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you for
Well, good to have you. Finally did it. How you doing? Welcome to the chat.
Welcome, Dallas. God bless you.
One more hand.
Just two last things.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Yeah. Drawing here.
Yes.
Pick it out.
All right. Just a couple of items here for you. As we have stated in the recent months, for many months, the Piedmont Color Guard needs new members. I am told there are a couple of members who are currently working on obtaining uniforms, and that's awesome. It's always fun to serve in the community where we live, and if we do our jobs correctly, the students and the adults that we serve with in the community will see us for what we are, and that's representative of individuals who serve to fight and help found this nation. And not pirates, as we were accused of being in the 4th of July parade. So. It happens, but a little difference in character there. But we do need others to join us, and there's a reimbursement available not just from the Piedmont chapter, but from the state society as well. After you've had a chance to serve for a bit in uniform, to help reimburse some of those costs. And so if you're interested, do that. Now, why do we spend so much time encouraging membership in the Color Guard? Well, it's not just to participate in Scout Courts of Honor or at the schools to kind of get students excited about learning, but one of the things that we have frequent opportunity to participate in with joy are Immigration and Naturalization Service ceremonies. There's been such a demand recently that the Atlanta Federal Courthouse is almost doubling the numbers of ceremonies for this year. And so we need your help. Even if you don't have a uniform, we need your help as a representative of organizations like ours to join us for some of those if you're available. Rick's going to the slide up here with all of the upcoming dates. There's a bunch of them up there. I gave all of you a paper copy that are in the room. I gave you a paper copy of our upcoming schedule. I will also email that out. But just to give you a sense for some of the things that we've got on our calendar coming up. And I recognize that these are daytime events at 11 a.m. in the morning at the Federal Courthouse in Atlanta. But if you had a spare half day of vacation you'd be willing to burn if you're still working, we would love the pleasure of your company. It's moving. It really is. Each and every time. You can literally feel this country getting stronger as you witness that event each time. So you're encouraged to participate. Even if you don't have the uniform, it's good to be there and be representative. Now, particularly if you have a uniform, on that calendar I handed out, there are a number of dates throughout the summer where we're being asked to provide color guard services, to present the flag at those ceremonies. So again, a special opportunity to serve. On that calendar I handed out, those are the dates highlighted in red, and we will be providing the color guard. And if we can't fulfill that responsibility on our own, we'll reach out to our partners and local chapters. Jamie?
Stacy, so the dates that are colored in green.
Those are just the regular ceremonies where we're there to be representative. The ones in red are for where we have specifically been asked to, could we provide color guards?
Okay, so but we're
involved in all of them.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
We are involved in all of them.
Makes sense.
I just tried to highlight the red ones because there was a special ask for us in those particular dates. Okay, so if you have an interest in that, reach out to Rick or to me, and we'll pull that data together. But the more, the merrier. Now, next week, we actually have a pretty full house of representatives, and we're appreciative of that. There's a special service ceremony being held next Wednesday at the Atlanta History Center, where they're in fact inducting, normally there's about 100 individuals who become new citizens. There will be 250 at the Atlanta History Center this next Wednesday, so it will be quite interesting. So your participation is needed. So let us know if you can be a part of that. Thank you. As you came in today, you see the table set up over here. Our fundraiser items have arrived. If you haven't already picked yours up today, do stop over here and see Rob, and he'll help you get the correct items. If we somehow don't have the right sizes or whatever it was you ordered, we'll do a makeup order and catch everything back up where it should be. But let us know. But thank you for your help with the fundraiser. Thank you for your participation. They turned out well, and so Ron's not with us today, but we certainly thank him for making that happen. And then last, just to give you, again, I handed out the calendars. Some people are more geared toward the paper calendar than getting it by email. We did want to highlight some upcoming things. Coming up next Sunday, not tomorrow, but next Sunday, we have a Liberty Tree dedication at Barrington Hall here in Roswell. We're doing that in conjunction with the Martha Stewart Bullock chapter of the DAR. Your participation, this is at 3 p.m. Consider joining us. Even if you don't have an SAR shirt or a uniform, again, we're planting a representative of a piece of history. And so come be a part of that with us. 1 week later, we're actually doing an initial planting of a Liberty tree at the VFW post in Alpharetta at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. That's there where I think Wills Road crosses, I don't know if it's Old Milton yet there or not, but Wills Road and Old Milton where they kind of cross.
Rucker Road.
Rucker, yes, I think it's still Rucker there. But join us then. And then other dates moving forward here. I did want to mention just a couple of changes, some decisions we made about our calendar at the Board of Managers meeting last weekend, in case you had written anything down on your calendar. But we were originally planning to do our summer picnic in June, but because Ricky and I were both not going to be there for that June session, we moved the June meeting. The June 15th chapter meeting is now a regular chapter meeting, and we've moved the picnic back to July 20 over here at a pavilion here in this park. So just a couple of changes up from what we had published earlier in the year. Regular meeting in this room in June, and the annual picnic on July 20. Bring your portable fans and air conditioners with you. But we hope you'll participate in that with us. Any other items, announcements, or information anybody would like us to share before we close out for the day? Well, my thanks to Bev and for being here with us. Certainly whetted my appetite to go read more, which I'm sure is a key part of your desire to be out in front of others. So hope everyone will do the same. Certainly come look up at our selection of books here. Don't by accident take Bev's with you as you go. There's sort of an invisible line right here. But we appreciate you here being here with us today. Thank you. If you will stand, I will ask Sergeant at Arms, to lead us in our SAR session.
Until we meet again, let us remember our obligation to our forefathers who gave us our Constitution, the Bill of Rights, an independent Supreme Court, and a nation of free men.
So the colors have been retired, and Chaplain Steve Morrison will lead us in our benediction.
Dear Lord, once again, thank you for joining us together, and we ask you to bless everyone here and everyone who is not here with safety and peace. We appreciate your kindness, and we ask you to let us return home safe and reassemble safe. Thank you for so much you've given us. Thank you for our country and our state, and thank you for our speaker today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Again, thank you all for your presence, and thanks to Rob for filling in today. Meeting is adjourned.
Good to see you, Glenn.